my name is Fentaranieli as the host today. Before we start today's talk show, I want to say hello at once to introduce our speaker today. We have Miss Deliski here as a peak practitioner. Hello, Miss Deliski.
Hello everyone.
Thank you. And also, we have Miss Rizky is an expert of education. And also we have Lati Febrian and Helmi as a student. How are you, everyone?
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, nice to meet you all. Now we are going to talk about students' different levels of proficiency and different interests. To know how to face this case, we need to know first what are the reasons from the students about their interest in learning. As we know in class many varieties of students that we need to know their behavior to help us as a teacher analyze their level in learning. For more information, let us listen to the explanation of our speakers today. First, I want to ask the students, what is your behavior when you are doing a study? Who wants to talk first?
Maybe I will talk first.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So according in my experience, my behavior when following the lesson is I usually pay close attention when the teacher explain the learning material. I also active during the question and answer session so that I understand the material well. However, sometimes I also do bad behavior when taking the lessons, such as being lazy to follow the lessons if the teacher explains the material monotonously and continuously. I will feel bored because I only listen the explanation from the beginning of the lessons to the end of lessons.
Okay, beside your explanation before, what conditions in learning that makes you feel comfortable in learning? Can you share?
Yes. In my opinion, the condition that makes me feel comfortable in learning is where the teacher doesn't just explain the material until the end. So the class will feel quiet because if we only listen to the teacher explain the material continuously, the student will be bored and sleepy. I prefer if the teacher explains the material in stages, and after that, a question and answer session will be held. Or student can work in groups, so the classroom atmosphere will be interactive. Or the teacher can use several media such as watching an explanation video when explaining the material.
All right, good answer. Thank you, Latif. Now we need another answer to make it clear about the differences of level and students' interests. Still in the same question, what condition in learning makes you feel comfortable in learning? How about you, Helmi Febrianti? Can you share your opinion?
Okay, thank you, Miss Nelly. So, thank you for this question. So, what I feel while studying is that I am an inactive or passive student while studying. Passive or inactive means here I rarely express my opinion when my opinion is asked by the teacher. And I do not dare to ask during the question session, even though I have a question I want to ask. This happens because I feel afraid when I want to speak. It can be said that I don't have great courage. Then I also like to take notes or summarize materials that I think is important while studying, because I think the notes I hold are important for me to do assignments or quizzes that the teacher might given for us. On the other hand, I also have bad behavior during class that is a commonly case, such as I play on my cell phone, like watching TikTok, playing WhatsApp, Instagram, and other applications. And the worst thing that I do is I sleeping during the class. It's a bad thing that makes me not focus during online classes. Like this, I think that's my behavior in class.
So, if you meet some students who are have different interests in learning with you, how do you feel or how do you interact with them when you are in place in learning?
Okay, this is interesting question. In my opinion, if I meet students who have different interests or way of learning from me, the most important thing in interacting that I do is I have to respect each interest or way of learning from each of them. In addition, I can also collaborate with them, such as discussing with each other how they can focus on their learning interests so as to achieve the targets they have set. Then I have mixed feelings like happiness, awkwardness, care, and other feelings. Why is it like that? Because I'm dealing with friends who have many differences in their interests or way of learning. So, of course, each friend has a different response in interacting and interests or ways of learning towards me. So that's the answer to this question. Thank you.
Okay, that's interesting. So, next, after we know the behavior of students, let's hear from the teacher as a person who is ever in this case. How do you handle the students when you face a case like this? Can you explain, Miss Deliski?
Okay, thank you for your questions. Before that, I'm so very happy to have the opportunity to share my opinion in talk show today. So, as long as I became a teacher, a case like this often happens in the class. As we know that every student must have a different learning style, and our task as a teacher is how we as teachers can make them interested in learning with the teaching style we do in the classroom. Based on my experience in this phase of case like this, the first thing to do is I have to know and understand how to learn what they like that can attract their attention. Um, it is indeed not an easy thing to recognize all students in the class, but without knowing their interest in learning, teachers will not know. So, as a teachers, we cannot force them to follow the teaching process of learning in a way they don't like. As we hear before from the um, students, they can bored or sleepy and don't even focus on the explanation we give. So our role as a teachers gives students comfort in learning so that they can follow learning by knowing how to learn what they like. So after we know, then as a teacher, we are preparing for teaching process to learn by combining ways of learning that students want. So um, Example, in my class, I also when I give explanation in the middle, I give them activity, a fun activity, and then I continue my explanation. Or before I give explanation in the beginning of class, I give them a simple activity or a fun activities to attract their attention. Or sometimes I give 5 or until 10 minutes break so they were not bored or sleepy with my explanation. And then in addition, as a teachers, we must also be able to position ourselves as a friends for students so that students are not ashamed or afraid to ask or argue or give her their opinion. So a teacher behaves fairly or does not fight students with their intelligence or talent because it will make them more comfortable in the classroom. These are some solutions that I use to face this case. Maybe for me, other teacher also must have their own ways, but in this conflict is the way I do it based on condition and situation in my class. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Deliski. It's a good answer and explanation. So I want to ask you one more questions. Do you have difficulties when you handle it?
Okay, I think talk about difficulties, I guess all teacher must also have difficulties of finding the solution in this case. But for me, the difficulties I have when dealing with students who have different levels of um, ability to understand or remember the explanation we give in the class. um, I, I think for me it's hard for us teacher actually. However, as a teacher, it is responsibility entirely from cases of level differential such as this that teacher actually exercise patience and awareness that not all students have the same abilities as each other. So therefore, our role as a teacher is to help and guide the students so that they can follow the learning well. Um, it's it's not easy, but yeah, as I said before, it does require closer relationship between us and the students and a fair attitude when dealing with students' differences. I think it is an important thing, and um, I once asked one student who was in the difficult and slow to follow the study. um, uh, she's she is a girl, and she says that her teacher was behaving unfairly and did not pay more attention to her who uh, who she actually needed the attention, which made her more insecure or more less confident. So I think a student's development in the class is also based on how we teach them. A compliment we give students is the form of appreciation they should receive in the classroom so they can develop their abilities. This is what I used to do as a teacher to overcome the difficulty of a class level difference. For different learning style or students' learning attraction, I feel that over the years, the solution I have given have been enough to attract their attention while studying. I think that's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, actually, I agree with you, Miss Daliski, that as a teachers to address the case like this, we usually think about, you need to think about their interest, about their behavior in learning, and so you can engage in some fun activities so that your students do not feel bored and more interested in learning. So next, we move to another questions for our guests today. Uh, the question is to make it clear the solution, we need to connect it with the theory that concerns with this case. So let's hear it for the exposure of the master who explains the issue of this case. So what do you think, Miss Risky?
Okay, Miss Pandaria. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. It's a great opportunity to be here and meet all of you. So if we talk about that case in a theory to overcome some of the problems in students' different interests and different level of proficiency, according to theory I read, actually it depends how the teacher can manage the classroom. For this reason, classroom management skills are needed for the teachers. How the teacher build relationship with the students in class, and how they can create some activities in classroom to make student interest in learning process. Therefore, the students will engage in the learning activities well in the classroom. The students will feel encouraged to learn and comfortable in such a way in the learning process of learning. Because as we know, all of the students have different interests in their learning. That's why we need to observe what students are interested in, so we can design and create some activities that suit to the students for supporting their learning successfully in the classroom. So if students have different interests, as a teacher, we can create or manage enjoyable and fun activities for students. Therefore, we can grab their attention in class and make them actively involved in learning. And for the next case, students have different proficiency level in the classroom. As we know, all the teachers face the issue of students with various levels in the classroom. To overcome that case, we can observe and evaluate all of the students to see what their level and the rank of abilities in learning. After that, we can create and design some activities suitable with the level of proficiency. And teacher can give student an opportunity to talk in a large of multi-level class, for example, provide types of group work, such as discussion or project. And then teacher can mix all of the students with different levels in a group work or discussion. So some students who are at a higher level can help students at a lower level to understand some materials well. Then students who are at higher level can serve as the role model. Moreover, teacher can also divide students in a group at same level proficiency and assign to the student the tasks appropriate to that level. So I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Risky. That's a good answer. I also agree with you that classroom management is important to know and learn, because we as a teacher should be able to adapt the class so that it can be safe and comfortable for the students. If we could manage the classroom up, then the learning process would also be more smoothly. And I think learning is interesting when teachers can adapt the class atmosphere according to the students' need. Okay, after this, as a teacher, we need to pay attention to all students if they have differences. So we need to appreciate them. We need to be close to them to know their behaviors. So that's all for our discussion for today. Thank you for you all, everyone, and nice to talk to you. I hope sharing today can be benefit for all of us, and goodbye.